Welcome back, fellow gamer. I want to go over my pre-release experience from yesterday, playing Kaladesh for the first time. I had a good time. I did not place well, and by good time I mean I enjoyed the experience. I had a massive cold yesterday. I'm feeling it a bit today as well. I think it might have affected a bit of my judgment making abilities, or just I was blazing through the cards, not really giving it my all like I should have. I guess an 8:30 a.m. start to the tournament might have factored into it, but hey, it's not an excuse, just something that kind of, I guess, affected my day. I ended up going 0-2, and then I dropped because the headache was just too much. I popped in some Advil, still wasn't working, so I said, you know what? No, I'm not winning anything with this deck, or at least with my play. Still, I want to go through what I did with my pool, and I'm open to criticism or critiques. If you think I should have done something a bit different, please let me know. I would love to hear it. So as you can see here, I went white-blue, and I pretty much based it around Dovin Bond. So yeah, I did one of those mistakes where you try to base your deck around one card. You pull like this mythic or this cool rare, and you try to build your deck around it. I thought I had a good game plan. So the idea here was to go wide with my board state and protect Dovin Bond, try to get him to 7 or 8 ultimate, and then have the person essentially be like locked down while I continue to hit him in the face with a bunch of creatures. So I'll walk through each of the cards. I'll show you what the rest of my blue, white, and colorless pool was, and I'll walk through why I did or did not pick certain cards. Pretty much it's going to be only the first time that I'm looking at them since I created my deck, so I might actually see a color that I maybe should have picked. So we'll start with Dovin Bond here. So until your next turn, up to one target creature gets -3/-0, and its activated abilities can't be activated. This was actually quite relevant, where I was actually -3/-0ing significant beast creatures. Some of them were completely neutralized, which was good. It did what I wanted to do. The gain 2 life draw card was also relevant. Helped me draw into some of my bombs, which I'll get to near the end. And the emblem, which I never got to hit, is kind of something I was wanting to drive through, but it's what it is. All right, so then blue. So you'll see my blue actually isn't that deep. I only have, not counting Dovin, 6 blue cards in my deck, and 2 of them are the Scry. So if the idea was if I wasn't drawing Dovin, I was going to try to draw either to him or to some of my bombs. The bombs are the accomplished automatons. Yeah. Really like the energy. I think these are the only cards that required energy, so allowing me to scry, I was able to scry quite a few times with these cards in the games that I did play. Now, I did say I went 0-2, but in each of those matchups, I went 1-2. So I did still eke out 2 victories, but the and I'll tell you about how I won both of them in just a moment. And then here, so the idea was, if somebody brings out a Gear Hulk, and I have a 1/1 token that I'm going to be generating through these guys, I can then trade that Gear Hulk or that big threat to me. I like playing with other people's stuff. Then here it's a counter spell where your bounce is assigned to your hand, so maybe the idea here is to bounce a card like this where I can get some more energy to scry once I've used the 3 scry abilities, or I have another few creatures here that have enter the battlefield abilities that would be useful. If Ether Trade Winds was kind of the same thought line, making it so that I could either bounce cards or my land for whatever reason, and I needed to develop some sort of board state. I had 2 of those, so I can't really complain about that. And here are the creatures for white. So a 0/4 for 1 isn't always that great. My line of thinking here was to get these out to protect Dovin. I had 2 of them. Protect Dovin, exiling another target creature, and then bringing them back, either to generate more 1/1s. Out on the board was the general idea. I didn't really have that many creatures that had amazing enter the battlefield triggers, but I still figured I'd give it a shot. Again, Fabricate, trying to get those 1/1 servo artifact creature tokens onto the battlefield. But funny enough, I pretty much always used the Fabricate for the +1/+1 counter, so I didn't even go with my game plan there. And I had 3 of them, which I still think they're good. A 3/3 for 3, in my opinion, is pretty good, especially if the board stays empty. The chest Trusty Companion provides a good attack and it acts as a blocker, so to help protect. Again, here trying to balance some of my stuff. I just wish I would have had better enter the battlefield abilities. Master Trinketeer. I was actually pretty excited to open this card, but never drew it. I never drew it. Conversely, I drew Dovin in each game. All right, so here, Inspired Charge. Because I'm going wide, I figured this is a good idea if I want to go in for the kill. And, you know, I'm attacking with a bunch of 1/1s. They aren't being blocked. I get to attack and then go for it. Authority of the Consoles, so I did get it out and it did prove effective in one of the matchups. And I did gain a fair bit of life from it being on the battlefield. For a 1 mana drop, I figured, you know what, it did its work. This card was the All-Star. This is the reason why I won both games. So my board state in the both games that I won was actually like quite bad. I had people that had the Hydra out, I had some Gear Hulks out, and destroying all the creatures and then gaining life. I gained, I'd say throughout the tournament, I probably gained about 30 or 40 life from this card. It was really good. Like, I actually was quite pleased with the way Fumigate ran. No complaints there. Would definitely run this again. And I think I actually might have a place in Constructed. Now the Accomplished Automatons, I have 2 here. I do have a third one in my pile. I'll get to that after, but I figured, you know, attacking with 2 6/8s are pretty good. That was the goal, to win me the game if it came to it. And I did manage to kill people with these cards on both my wins. Helping to protect against flying. I don't have that much flying, so I figured, you know, paying that extra blue to activate him as a flyer would be pretty good. Never drew this card, but the idea here was, you know, to act as a chump blocker and trade with something while giving me card advantage. So that's my deck. That's the deck that I ran with. Obviously, I didn't show you the land. It's all basic land. Let's go through the colors first. So I had this card in originally, so Experimental Aviator. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 Thopters. I was happy to play it, and then I saw it was a 5 converted mana cost, and I was like, that's kind of expensive to get 2 flyers out there that can attack. This here's gonna be a 0/3 all day, all night in my deck, so there's no real point in having a 0/3 that, you know, wouldn't trade with some of the bigger things flying up top. Gear Seeker Serpent. So never really thought about running this, to be honest. And here is one of the foils I got. This is actually, like, the foils in Kaladesh are gonna be really nice, but in the grand scheme of things, don't think this is a good card. Getting those energy counters, really not anything that I could write home about, so that I would then pay for energy and then draw those cards. So it's like, nah. Now Counterspell is pretty good, but for 4 and then drawing a card and discarding a card, I didn't really want to be forced into that, so I decided to pass. And then here, turn it into a 1/4. I mean, yeah, like, looking at it, maybe I could have used that instead of the 0/4, because this does have upside of attacking and then using those energy counters. And the extra energy that I was generating from the Scryers, maybe I could have used that there. In hindsight, yeah, maybe I'll run this instead of a 0/4. Tezzer's Ambition, I didn't feel I was going to be running into a situation where I needed to draw cards, and I actually didn't. When throughout each of the games I played, I did have full hands. So right there, I don't think it really would have added anything. I did have these 2 Revolutionary Rebuff in my deck originally, but then I took them out just because I didn't want to. I wanted to run more creatures so that I could help protect Dovin, and then from there go with what was needed. And then white. So white, I only have 3 extra cards. So Refurbish. I didn't really have that many artifacts that I would want to bring back from the graveyard. Obviously, if I had one of my Accomplished Automatons that went to the graveyard, that would have been an issue. But having only these 4, like, permanents that I would have been able to bring back, I would not have been able to justify it just because there are so few cards. Herald of the Fair, again, I'm more looking to protect my side than attack when it's opportunistic, and giving 1 creature 1/1 really wasn't gonna help me out in the long run. And Built to Last. I originally had this in my deck, took it out again for more creatures. The opportunity was there to run more creatures. I said, you know what, I might as well go for it. All right, the artifacts. So I did have a few vehicles. I had 2, and I chose not to run them. I chose not to run them because I was going wide, and I felt having both of these defeated that purpose, especially this with a crew 5. tapping multiple creatures to get it to attack. Mind you, he does have attack 7, but I was really looking at standing back and then attacking when the opportunity arose. And this didn't really seem right to have in the deck. I'm just going to run with my my regular creatures and get rid of the vehicles. Now, I would have played this, but I only had one assembly worker in my pool. I looked and could not find another accomplished automaton. He cost 7, so I said I was only going to put 2 in. I didn't want too high of a mana curve. Snarethopter, in hindsight, I probably should have run this. He was quite effective against me. So the 3/2 haste aspect is really great. The evasion that's built in with flying, also great. Again, probably should have ran this. Prophetic Prism, I mean, aside from the card draw, I didn't really need to filter any of my mana into a color of any choice. Maybe if I was running a third color, it would have been a good idea. Maybe if I would have splashed Dovin and then brought this in, that would have been the better cue, but didn't do it. Again, here I'm not really playing green, so I ignored that. Here's one of my other rares. Really, not much I could do here with this. Again, I mean, getting lifelink might have been okay, but I would have had to pay black, or sorry, I would have had to play black. Again, another one. Equipment, I'm not really big on equipment unless it's an equipment-focused deck, so I generally pass on those. I don't really give them much of a second thought. Again, I have to be playing another color, and this, while I could have been playing this without needing to activate the red, I went in lieu of other creatures that were on color. So those are my on color cards and choices. I still feel that besides 1 or 2 mistakes I might have left out, I generally think I chose the strongest cards out of the available colors. So let's check out, the colors that I decided to go with, but let's check out the other colors. Let's see what I maybe passed up on. So I was fortunate that most of my rares were on color, so I was able to use them. But as you see, like with that colorless rare, like unless I'm playing an artifact deck, it's not going to help me in any situation. So here I've got hazardous conditions in black and green. Creatures with no counters on them get -2/-2 until the end of turn. Again, I didn't really think of going green or black, so I discarded this card immediately. Let's go to green. So, Fairgrounds Trumpeter. At the beginning of each end step, if a +1/+1 counter was placed on a permanent under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 on Fairgrounds Trumpeter. This has the opportunity of getting big. I just, again, don't think my green pool is that great. Giving me energy, but I didn't really have that many cards that cared about energy. Hunt the Weak's not a bad removal card. A 1/1 for 1 that can gain indestructible could be relevant as a chump blocker, but I felt that with the opportunity of people going wide, that 1/1 wouldn't really help. This would have been a bomb that I could have used if I would have went green. Got a second copy. When Wild Wanderer enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. I mean, 4 mana for a 3/2 that fetches is not that bad. Larger than life. It's usually a way to finish off somebody. And look at that, I actually had a third copy of Cal Prowler. So that's green. Again, nothing particularly exciting about green in my pool, so I decided, you know what, it didn't give me any incentive to play greens. All right, so let's look at what black had in store. So Fretwork Colony, it can't block. It's at the beginning of your upkeep. You put a 1/1 counter on it, and you lose 1 life. So by turn 3, if you played this on turn 2, you had a 2/2, but can't block. So I guess if you have an aggro style deck, you don't care about the life loss, and you can essentially make sure that he actually gets through and deals damage. Again, in a set that I think a lot of people will go wide in, not the best. It's just getting chump blocked. It doesn't have trample, so the life loss is kind of what does it for me, and it's kind of slow, right? This is a 3/4 for 4, vanilla, no abilities. It's got a nice flavor text though, a nice art. Not something that I'd be playing because of that. Target creature gets +1/+0, gains lifelink and indestructible. So I'm not usually a big fan of things that give +1 or +2 for the end of turn and giving lifelink. It's pretty incremental. The indestructible, though, saving one of your big bombs or a creature that's really integral to your deck is a good idea, but I don't like playing these cards as, they require that situation to present themselves. So you're holding on to a card that you might never need. This card's actually not that bad. Lawless Broker, so when Lawless Broker dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So buffing that creature, and you're trading hopefully with like a 4/3 or, 4/3, or another creature that's of equal size, like another 3 or another 2. Not bad. As long as you control an artifact, Duhan Operative gets +1/+0 and has Death Touch. So a 3/2 for 2 that has Death Touch, because I think pretty much in every game I played, people had artifacts out. So it stands to reason that in most decks, this will be a 3/2 with Death Touch. Not bad for taking out a big bomb, right? This is not a card that I pretty much like. I think people actually were saying this is a great designed card during spoiler season, but for me, in this environment, it's like, why am I going to keep paying mana in order to, do incremental damage each turn? And that's assuming each turn you have an artifact that's entering the battlefield. So I don't think it's worth it. And you're paying 4 mana to just destroy the creature, flat out. So that's a 4 mana removal. Not a big fan. Live Fast is pretty good. I like it. It's, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. So like Sign in Blood. And then you get 2 extra energy. So if you have an energy-based deck, I'd probably use this, but I did not. Midnight Oil. So when I pulled this card, as I was popping open packs, I had the headache of life. So I looked at this card, I read it twice. I'm like, this is way too much text. For the state of mind that I was in, I was just, I probably shouldn't have gone to the pre-release yesterday because of the headache that I had. But I was there, and this card was like, it was giving me a bigger headache. So let's read it together now, because honestly, I read it a few times. Wasn't understanding why somebody would want to include this card in your deck, but let's go through it. So Midnight Oil enters the battlefield with 7 hour counters on it. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card and remove 2 hour counters from Midnight Oil. Your maximum hand size is equal to the number of hour counters on Midnight Oil. Whenever you discard a card, you lose 1 life. So obviously, it's great if you want to just draw into your cards, but you need to have a deck that you can cast all your stuff that you're drawing. So you need, I guess, a low casting cost deck, because after you run out of counters, this stays on the battlefield. There's no sacrifice ability. So after 3 or 4 turns, you are essentially running without a hand until this is removed from the battlefield, and the one that's removing it is going to be you. Like, your opponent's not removing this card unless he does it early on, because he doesn't want you to get a card advantage. So I'm not that big of a fan. I can see maybe why a few people would want to run it in decks that are very fast and you need to draw all those extra cards to beat them quickly. I didn't have the tools to do that, so I would not. That was a bum rare for me. Not as bum as the deal 50 damage rare that I got, the artifact, the ether, whatever majig. Menace, Fabricate. So Fabricate into a 4/2 or a 3/1 with a 1/1. Again, in a set I think that people are going to be going wide in, I don't want to have this trade with 2 1/1s. It's 2, I think, Menace. 2 or 3, whatever. Oh, geez. Okay, so I have Slippery Hands. I got Butterfingers. So Foundry Screecher, I got 2 of them. 3/1 if the artifact control is there. Not bad for flying. Not bad. You can take out some of the bigger flyers out there. This is pretty good recursion, actually. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield in your control, you can return it. So you're not paying anything other than playing the artifact. Not bad, actually, not bad. Returning an artifact and returning creature to your graveyard, from your graveyard to your hand would be pretty good. Die young. So you have a lot of energy and you want to take out that big creature, that might be the way to go. Can be good for spot removal, especially if, it's baked in to give a creature -2/-2. It's your choice whether you want to or not. I'm not a big fan. That's not true. It's not that I'm not a big fan, I just didn't really see the need for it. All right, so here was my promo. So there's a guarantee, is that if there's a crappy Hellion, I will pull it during a pre-release. But this time I got extra lucky and got it as my foil. Now, yes, there are arguments where you can, potentially do 8 damage with this 3 casting cost creature, but I didn't have a deck that produced a lot of energy, so this would have probably died after the 2 turns, and I didn't see the 8 damage isn't getting you to a place that it's not 20 damage, so you're not killing the person, and I didn't feel that my red had enough oomph to justify playing this because it was my promo. That's how I saw it. Now, people are saying that this might have a spot in Constructed. Great, if that's the case, then I'll actually be able to get rid of this card. Otherwise, this is a card that I'll have until something happens to my collection. So let's see what the rest of the cards are. So Welding Sparks, if you have a heavy artifact deck, that might be well because you're doing X plus 3 damage equal to the number of artifacts. This here is great for vehicles. So every time you tap this guy, he's, you know, taking a ride and doing 1 damage at the same time. So pop shotting, I think I might have 2 in here. I do have 2. Reckless Fireweaver, so here I have 2. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. And I do apologize if I'm saying artifact weird. My nasal passageways are like blocked right now, so I'm not able to pronounce words properly. Demolish. It's common, like it's a card that's been reprinted a few times. I think I played it during one limited environment. I said never again. It's not that great of a card. Cathartic Reunion. So drawing 3 cards for 2 is pretty good, especially if you're getting Mana Flood, where you get to discard 2 of the lands you might have drawn that you really don't need. So I really can't say anything wrong about this card. I like it. 3 for 3 with haste. Yeah, I'd probably play this. You know, it's a nice aggro piece. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. I personally like drawing then discarding, but hey. So giving 4 energy. While the 4 energy is great, you can only really do it to do this twice, where you're doing 2 damage, because yeah, it's 8 energy. So that's kind of like ridiculous. Pay 8 energy to do 6 damage. I don't like it. This is a card that these types of cards I never run. Very situational, pretty much only relevant if you absolutely want to get through to a planeswalker and he happens to have very few creatures. Vehicles you control become artifact creatures and get until the end of turn, and creatures you control get +2/+0. I only had 2 vehicles, so why would I run that? So there's my sealed pool. I feel that I made the best possible deck with the cards that I was given. I don't think I had a particularly strong sealed pool, but I'd love to know your opinion, especially if you've seen areas I might have overlooked, even in this analysis. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if I done messed up. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. If you'd like to see more, click on one of the 2 videos that are there, or click on show more in the description below to see when and what we upload, as well as when we stream. And if you need an update on what exactly we're going to be streaming that week, don't be shy to hit us up in the comments or reach out to us on Twitter. We'll be more than happy to chat. Until next time, good gaming.